When we think about the history of singing, we usually think about legendary voices, right? But what if I told you the biggest game changer wasn't a person at all, but a piece of technology? Today, we're going to explore how one single invention didn't just change music, it completely rewired our emotional connection to it.
Yeah, that quote just nails it, doesn't it? The whole story starts not in some grand concert hall, but in a lab. It's all about an invention that basically taught singers how to whisper instead of shout, and in doing so, created this brand new, incredibly intimate bond between an artist and, well, you.
All right, so to really get just how massive this change was, we have to jump in our time machine. Let's go way back to a world before the microphone, a time when singing was, well, it was less of an art form and more like a full-on contact sport. Seriously, before the mid-1920s, if you wanted to be a professional singer, you basically had to be an athlete. Your whole job was about one thing: pure raw power. I mean, can you imagine standing in a massive theater with no amps and having to physically push your voice all the way to the back row? Singers like the famous Al Jolson, they used this operatic belting style just to cut through the noise. And the result? They were singing at the audience, not to them. Big difference. And this right here, this is the heart of our story. On one side, you've got the bellow. It's all about physical power, projection, reaching a huge crowd. And on the other, the whisper, which is all about intimacy, emotional detail delivered to just one person. The gap between these two worlds, it seemed absolutely impossible to cross. And, it wasn't just in the live theaters. Even the earliest recording technology just made this problem worse. We're talking about this giant, clumsy mechanical horn that you literally had to scream into. There was zero room for subtlety, no space for a quiet, emotional moment. The only thing it understood was volume. But then, everything changed. Let's get to the real turning point in the story, because everything we just talked about, all the belting, the shouting, the pure physical force of it all, was about to become totally optional. All thanks to one single game-changing invention. And just like that, with the arrival of these super sensitive condenser and ribbon microphones, the singer didn't have to fight the room anymore. This beautiful piece of technology could pick up the softest sounds. The machine was finally doing the heavy lifting, which freed up the artist to do something completely and totally new. And these new mics, they had a secret weapon, a little quirk of physics called the proximity effect. Here's how it works. The closer you get your mouth to the mic, the more it boosts the bass in your voice. And that creates this incredibly warm, deep, intimate sound. This wasn't just some tech spec on a brochure. Oh no, this was the magic ingredient for a whole new way of singing. So the technology's here, it exists. But the big question is, who's going to be the first to figure out what to do with it? This new tool needed a new kind of artist. And two names rose to the top and came to define this entire era: Bing Crosby and, of course, Frank Sinatra. Okay, so Bing Crosby, he was the first real master. He just got it instantly. He figured out that the microphone wasn't some megaphone you shout into. It was more like a sensitive ear you could whisper your secrets to. So he leaned right in, used that proximity effect to get his signature warm sound, and developed this relaxed, almost conversational style. He wasn't performing anymore. He was just talking to you. And just think about what that felt like for someone listening at home on their radio. All of a sudden, it wasn't like Bang was up on some distant stage in a giant hall. No, it felt like he was right there, sitting in the chair next to you. The microphone in his hands just completely erased the distance between the artist and the audience. It created this one-on-one connection that had never, ever existed before.
Now, there's this fantastic line that goes, "If Bing Crosby built the house of crooning, Frank Sinatra decorated it with high art." And man, that is the perfect way to put it. Sinatra took the intimacy that Crosby pioneered and just elevated it into this incredible, sophisticated art form.
So here's what he did. He started with Crosby's foundation, that relaxed, easy style. But then he added this insane layer of technical skill. He actually learned breath control from classical trombonists. Think about that. This meant he could treat a single vocal line like a sculpture. He didn't have to gasp for air, so he could focus on the phrasing, the emotion, even the silence between the notes. The microphone captured every single tiny sigh. So you've got these two giants, right? Crosby basically invents the language of singing into a microphone. He creates that intimacy. Then Sinatra comes along and uses that same language to write poetry.
One made it personal, the other made it art. Two totally different masters using the exact same tool to completely change the game.
And, this whole transformation wasn't just some passing trend in pop music. It was a deep, fundamental shift in how we relate to performers. And honestly, it's something we still feel today. This is maybe the biggest takeaway of all. The microphone completely rewrote the singer's job description. They weren't just a performer anymore, projecting out to a sea of faces. They became a confidant, whispering a secret directly into your ear.
And with this newfound intimacy came a whole new palette of emotions you could express in a song. For the very first time, a singer could sound vulnerable, or tired, lonely, heartbroken, all without having to act it out for the cheap seats. The microphone could pick up a tiny sigh, a crack in the voice, a quiet moment of real feeling. And you can trace this line all the way through the decades. It all starts with a piece of technology in the 1920s. It gets pioneered by artists like Crosby, then perfected by masters like Sinatra, and you can still hear its DNA in so much of the music we love today. Think about jazz vocalists like Chet Baker or even modern pop stars like Billie Eilish. The legacy is everywhere.
So, when you boil it all down, this is the story of how a tool designed to make things louder became an instrument for making things closer. The microphone stopped being just a utility and became a creative partner, a true musical instrument in its own right. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on, doesn't it? The ribbon mic changed everything for singing in the 20th century. So, what inventions happening right now are quietly reshaping what art even means for the 21st century and beyond?
And that's our look at the incredible crooner revolution. Thanks so much for joining me to explore how a simple piece of metal and ribbon didn't just change music, it actually changed the sound of the human voice forever.